welcome to a very special New Year's episode of the What the Falk podcast. We're considered doing a quiz. We're considered inviting Sam Allardyce back to the pod, where he was busy. And Gus Poyet said it would be incredible for him to come back to the podcast, but he pulled out last minute. But fear not, we've came up with a plan that is sure to entertain everyone and show you just how little we actually know about football. But before I explain the format of the show, I will introduce you to our two guests today. First and foremost, Brad Sharp, regular. Brad, how are you doing? Are you all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Graham. Thank you. Good to be back on after a couple of days. Not that I can remember much from the other one.
Honestly, they're coming out like pups, these podcasts at the minute. I've never ever felt like this, but they're coming out like pups. And of course, joining us as always is Dave Lawrence. Dave, you all right?
Yeah, very well, thanks, mate. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm actually quite excited for this one. Not going to lie. To all the listeners listening out, thinking this is going to be great, might not be. Might be awful, but I'm excited for it. That's what matters most. Today's podcast, to give everyone the format, as you probably noticed on the title, is going to be focusing on Sunderland cult heroes of the past and of the present. The format's really simple. We'll choose a formation, and then in a round table sort of setup, we all get to choose one player to put into our cult hero starting 11 until we have that full starting 11. And to define what a cult hero is, I went for a Google definition. Of course, you've got to go for Google. That's what it's there for. Every football club has its cult heroes, it says. For one reason or another, these players stand out from the rest, earning their own nicknames or fan songs and leaving special legacies that will never be forgotten. So in Sunderland's case, that's quite a large set of players with a variety of different reasons. So this football team might be the shitest football team you've ever seen, maybe the best, or it might be a mixture of both. But most importantly, we really hope that it entertains you. As I said, we've got to choose a formation first and foremost. Now, what I've done, because I thought, how am I going to choose who goes first here? I've again done the internet thing. I went into Google and seen if there was a way to do a random generator, and apparently there is. So I put Dave's name in, I put my name in, I put Brad's name in. I'm going to pick a random item, and they get the choice of formation and the first pick. So I'm just going to do that just now. And the winner is, it's me. Brilliant. Absolutely excellent. That's exactly what I wanted.
Absolute fix. Absolute fix.
Yeah.
I would show people that, but we're an audio podcast, which is such a shame. I'm actually not surprised that came out. I'm very happy. I'm going to go with 4-3-3 because I think that's the right formation to have. I think 4-4-2 is outdated. Unless you Leicester City that won the Premier League about 5 years ago, and then it's obviously the best formation to have. But I'm going with 4-3-3. And I'm going to annoy Brad because I know Brad has a couple of right backs up his sleeve, right? But I'm going to go with a right back for my first pick. And there's reasons for this, right? Now, I said before, cult heroes leave a legacy for one reason or another. So you could say Kevin Phillips, you could say Niall Quinn. There's plenty of players that have left legacies at Sunderland. But there's one particular player that was so shit that I liked him. And I still do like him. And I refer to him on a regular basis. And I always felt like he was going to come good, and he never really did. So in 4-3-3 formation, my choice is Donald Love.
Well, honestly, there's any number that you could have went with. Because we're of, I say similar age. I think we are exactly the same age.
We are.
I thought you were going to go with Gareth Hall. That's where I thought you were going with that. Because I dare say he was even worse than Donald Love, which is crazy. But fair. Yeah. I mean, wow.
I want to go back to that when you said about Gareth Hall, right? Now, when you think about Gareth Hall, I always remember not so much how bad he was, but the fact that he took Dariusz Kibicki's consecutive record off him. Like, Dariusz Kibicki, for the younger listeners, would have played the most consecutive amount of games for Sunderland of all time. And we played Southampton away, and he got dropped for Gareth Hall, who, again, for our younger listeners, imagine Donald Love without all the lovable stupidness. And that's Gareth Hall, pretty much. He used to look worried whenever a winger came at him, and maybe Gareth Hall would get in the worst right back or left back or midfield as we signed him originally. But my choice is going to be Donald Love. Now, the second choice, obviously, is between Brad and Dave. I'm going to do a wee round table of that as well. Let's see who we get up next, and they get the next choice. The next pick is Dave. Dave gets the next pick. Dave, who you going with? Sorry, Brad.
Oh, my God. This is, I tell you what a game this is, by the way. 4-3-3.
You've got two centre halves, you've got a left back, you've got three midfielders, you've got a goalkeeper.
I'm gonna go centre half. We'll go centre half first. It was probably one of the most exciting signings of the summer for me. at the time, and he was hard. He was actually quite a good footballer, if I'm honest. Brazilian centre half Emerson Tom.
Oh, what a shout that is!
What an absolute legend!
That is a tremendous shout. Emerson Tom, though, was the only Brazilian. I mean, he was good in loads of different ways, but he was the only Brazilian that had horrendous distribution.
Yeah. He was a good old English centre half. He was just like
he was.
He really was.
I think it was 4.5 million or something we got him back. Maybe
4.5 million. Yeah.
He was our record signing at the time. He was our record signing. Got him from Chelsea. Came in for 4.5 million. And he was an English Brazilian centre half, played alongside Jody Craddock. I do specifically remember playing Chelsea away, and we won 4-2, as people remember. I think Gavin McCann, Don Hutchison scored twice, 2001, I think maybe even 2000. And I remember specifically Emerson Tom was like riling the fans up, and I cannot quite remember why. I'm sure if I tweet Crabbers, he'll remind us why, but I'm sure Crabbers was in the process of getting like escorted out of Stamford Bridge for starting a riot. And it had something to do with Emerson Tom. So for that reason alone, to be fair, Emerson Tom deserves his place. I mean, and Donald Love slotting in alongside Emerson Tom. Emerson Tom's going to mop up every mistake that D Love makes. I think that's a good start, to be fair. Brad, your choice is next, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to go goalkeeper, but I'm not going to go with the one that everyone would class as the cult hero goalkeeper.
Who would that be before you tell us who you're going to go for?
Sorry?
Who do you think would be the obvious one?
Oh, obviously Lionel Perez, wouldn't it?
I would have said Tommy Sorensen, me.
No, just for a cult, but for me, he played at number 2 to Tommy Sorensen for a while, but there's always one game that stands out, and he kept a clean sheet. And I think the goal just got peppered and peppered and peppered. And for some reason, he got to move to Chelsea. It was Jurgen Macho.
Jurgen Macho.
Can we...
at Sunderland for a few seasons, and then got himself a move to Chelsea and didn't appear once for them. But I loved him. I think he just loved being at Sunderland, and I think the fans loved him. So yeah, there's a mention to Lionel Perez, but for me, Jurgen Macho, I love the bloke. And for that, I think we might have even played Liverpool. We might have got beat or drew against Liverpool, but we got peppered against Man United away and Liverpool away. And Jurgen Macho was just outstanding.
It was a 0-0 draw. They had 32 shots on target or something. It was like a record at the time. They saved all of them.
And I'll tell you what, mind, a special shout out, because there could be any number of cult hero goalkeepers. Mart Poom with that header against Derby. Martin Fulop, rest in peace, was well loved.
Tommy Sorensen, the save against Shearer, obviously.
Yeah,
and many other saves.
I'll tell you what, mine and Graham's era, and going back to a right back as well, I could play this game all day. One of the time when I fell in love with Sunderland was probably 91, 92. So I was only 4 or 5 year old. And I tell you what, you could take that whole team. John Kay, Tony Norman, Alec Chamberlain, put the lot of them in. Absolute worldies, the lot of them.
I don't know whether this will make sense to you lot, right? But someone mentioned Perez the other day because we played Cambridge and the guy came on. And I said to someone, I was like, you know who Perez reminded me of? And I can't remember who I said it to, and I don't know what you're on about. So hopefully people listening do. But do you remember the hairdresser, Neville Ramsey?
Yes.
Lionel Perez was this, when he went short and blonde, was the absolute spit and dabs of Neville Ramsey. And I don't know where Neville is. Great hairdresser, by the way. Fantastic barber. Was he in Blandford Street?
I think he was, wasn't he?
He was at Blandford Street. I'm sure he had the upstairs at Blandford Street.
That's right. Yeah. A couple of doors down. Oh, where was it? Was it Geordie Jeans or something like that? It was a couple of doors down from Geordie Jeans, I'm sure.
It wasn't Geordie Jeans. It was
what was it?
It was the
oh man,
Gentlemen Officers Club.
Yes, it was.
Officers Club.
Old school. Brad's just looking at us going, what are these two talking about?
Yeah, when David was born, he fell in love with Sunderland when he was in 91. I was just coming out with my mother then, so for me it was really the start of the stage of my life. I remember, I think I went to one game at Walker Park. Can't remember a thing, and then yeah, it was stage of my life era for me. So when you're talking before, and yeah, I've seen videos, and when we used to release the season videos for years and years and years. But yeah, before that, and then any shops in Sunderland or Newcastle or anywhere up that side, I haven't a clue. Apart from going to the game, until I was 17, 18-year-old, I never ventured north of Hartlepool. So
I was that in love with Sunderland when I was a kid, and I first went in '93, so I'm pretty much around Dave's era. I was that in love with Sunderland. I even bought the '96-'97 season review. For those who don't remember that season, we got fucking relegated.
Yes, I've still got that. I got it from that one, and I think Super Kev's Hot 100 was one that I got on video as well. I've got loads of VHSs kicking about somewhere.
I've got Super Kev's Hot 100 at a car boot. It's £1. That's a penny for every goal.
It's not a bad return, is it?
I thought it was all right, mate. Almost as good as value as he was. I think it's my choice. Now, I'm going to openly admit I'm going with stupid choices, right? I know people will be listening going, oh, for God's sake, Graham, just choose like a proper cult hero like Bowley or Alex Ray. I don't want to choose obvious ones because that would be pointless. So I've gone for D-Love for my number one. My number two, I don't even think you could really class him as a football player, but obviously his career at Sunderland ended really poorly. But there was a single moment in a pub after he got beat 5-0 off Celtic where he spent time in a pub. And I'll never forget his reply. For those wondering, Darren Gibson is my next choice. And the reason I'm choosing Darren Gibson is for the sole single line, I don't want to be shit. Because that was exactly how every Sunderland fan felt at the time, just without the 9 pints in them. Obviously, he didn't have the greatest of ending at his career, but I'm choosing Darren Gibson because I'll never, ever forget that moment that he was in a pub and he was just saying, oh, well, no one cares. Well, right. Well, who doesn't care? And he was like, well, you name them. And then the bloke was like, Dillaboji and Dong. And he was like, aye. So he didn't...
He was like, there's one. There's another one. Next. There's one. Next. And then the lad asked him, you're in the pub here off your face. And he went, who is? You are. He's not. He wasn't a bad player, but he was just made of shredded wheat.
He actually wasn't that bad in that small period, but that season was so horrific. But let's rewind back to Wolves away, right? Drew 0-0, Cats got sent off. He was actually really, really good in that game, but then he smashed his car up, so we didn't really see much. Well, no, he done his groin, didn't he? That's right. When he started, his groin.
Did his groin, and then I think he was on the comeback from injury, and then he decided to smash into people's cars on Good Friday.
Oh, Darren, what you like?
And then ended up at Salford, and I don't know what he's doing now.
Broke his leg at Salford. I was actually watching a documentary on Salford yesterday, the Class of '92 or something, full time. Broke his leg after 4 games at Salford. He's currently a free agent. He spent a bit of time at Wigan. Like most of our players have, for some bizarre reason. So just to keep everyone updated with our fabulous cult hero team, which is looking decidedly horrendous at the minute, apart from one centre half, to be fair. We've got Jurgen Macho in goal, Don Love and Emerson Tom, and at the minute we've got Darren Gibson as the linchpin. I said cult heroes, but I'm going by the definition, memorable for one reason or another. And what would be the point of me saying Bowley or Alex Ray? It's the obvious answer. So if you complain about not being Bowley, tough, turn off now. Dave, it's your choice next for your next cult hero. Where are you going?
Well, mate, again, just like absolute players that I loved. Had probably a little bit about them. And I'm going to go for a centre forward. He can slip in anywhere across the three. But I tell you what, mind. Like absolute classic. And again, it's going back to probably getting a little bit older then. But if I say centre forward, Cameroon international, who are we thinking of? Can we remember?
Patrick Mboma.
And just for the fact that his song is fucking legendary.
What was his song again? That's gone on my head.
Mboma. Oh, Mboma. Oh, he plays for Cameroon.
He hates the words, the tune.
What an absolute legend, by the way.
Oh, he scored 1 goal in 7 games or something, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely shite.
Which is still a better
I think
record.
I might have only been 8 or 9 year old, right? And he played for Cameroon whilst he was playing for us. And that was at the point where Cameroon players were wearing vests.
I remember
I said
that,
to my dad the next time he played, is he not allowed to wear vests for us? I was convinced because he wore vests for Cameroon, he was going to have to wear vests for Sunderland. So I was expecting 10 players to run out with long sleeves on because it was the middle of winter. I think it might have been just after the AFCON. And then I looked at Anbomber and I said, Dad, why is he not wearing his vest? That's what sticks out from me on them.
I used to, stupid things you think as a kid. I used to, like, because we used to listen to it on the wireless. I still call it the wireless. Like, because my nana used to call it the wireless night. Before I started going to games like 1990, 91, when I was like 4 or 5, I remember we used to like huddle around the wireless to listen to games from Roker Park and that. And because everyone got so excited, probably because we were that shite, when we got a corner, I thought the corner meant you scored a goal in the corner. So I used to think we were winning games like 8-0 all the time. And I'm thinking, fabulous, these. What a great team. How were we 21st in the Ensley League Division 1? Like, then I went to the match and I was like, oh, right, because it's, you get a free kick, but in the corner, right, I get you. Funny things you pick up, though. But my first ever favourite player, I've come to think of it, was actually Derek Ferguson.
Derek Ferguson.
I had Ferguson number 5 on the back of my shirt, and I loved him. And I went religiously to Roker Park in, I think it was 93, 94, with me dad. And I was every day I used to say, oh, Derek Ferguson's going to score the first goal. Derek Ferguson. And my dad was like, he's shite. He's not going to score the first goal. He's absolutely honking. And he took this to the Panto. I don't even like the Panto, right? And it was Carlisle in the cup. And Derek Ferguson scored the first goal. And I missed it. And Derek never scored again for something. And now he's an open goal. So he's still doing better than us, unfortunately. But he's not my choice, by the way. I think it's Brad's choice next.
My choice next. I was going to go the same as you, Graham, with some
just dafty
funny pick. But I might try and bring one back in for the basic fact he's probably my favourite player that I've seen. I'm going to put him in midfield. He's had a hell of a career, but probably scored one of the best goals I've seen live at the stage of my life against Tottenham. And that's Bolo Zenden.
Oh, I love Bolo.
I just think no matter what club that man goes to, he's just loved. Loved by the players, loved by the fans. And for me, my mates used to wind me up saying, because every time I was just talking about Zenden, and they'd be like doing stupid sex noises saying, oh, Brad, you love Bolo. Oh, Bolo. So for me, Bolo Zenden sits in there in midfield. He was just a class act at the time. We had a really good team as well. But that goal against Spurs, where it just dropped over his head, I'll forever remember that one.
Oh, just class, man.
Technique on it, straight back in the far corner. That was like, I had to change my underwear.
You know, he scored that goal against West Ham on his last game and he was captain. And I'm thinking, oh, whoever gets Bolo is getting a cracking player, getting a really good player here. And no one picked him up. That was his last act as a football player. Like, I still feel like Bolo Zenden at 45-year-old or whatever he is could probably fit into our midfield, no bother. He was so good. And it was never about pace. It was never about like speed and out like that. He was just cultured, wasn't he? That's a cracking shout, that Bolo Zenden. That is a tremendous shout. It's going to make my shout look absolutely fucking ridiculous. But he's got to be in. I was a bit worried that Dave was going to take him when he mentioned centre forwards. But there's no way on God's green earth that I can leave out the one and only Milton Tyson Nunes.
It was a toss-up. Trust me, it was a toss-up. It was a toss-up.
I mean, what a bloke.
Feeling of Milton Nunes, and the whole stadium's waiting. None of this social media, so you got to see him before. And when you signed Milton Nunes, and everyone started clapping and looked and went, hang on, what? Who's he? They signed the wrong player. And I was like, I asked my dad, who is he? And my dad and my granddad both went, I haven't a clue, son. He's not the one that I thought we were signing.
You remember when he came out half time though, and he did like the kind of like the shadow boxing because his nickname was Tyson. Like he did like the shadow boxing. No, but Milton has to be in there, doesn't he? Like he just has to be. Like I think right, bold statement, but for complete wrong reasons, he might be the ultimate cult hero for me.
Yeah, I definitely think he's up there, mate. Like, I don't think anyone could argue with it.
He's so memorable.
Definitely. I tell you what, when I think of him, I think of fraudster footballers, but he had this infectious smile and stuff. And the only one who I can think was a bigger fraud, and I've just double checked it on my phone and good old Google, was nothing to do with Sunderland. But do you remember the story about Southampton Ali died?
Souness.
Ali died.
Souness gets told that he's George Weah's cousin.
That's the one. That's the one. And Souness was like, yeah, get him in. We're struggling for a centre forward. He came on, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but I think he lasted 9 minutes of his debut and he got pulled off again. 9
minutes and he took him straight back off.
Oh, dearie me. And I genuinely think Tyson Nunes, and I remember watching Nunes in a reserve game. Where will the reserve game been at the time?
I watched him in
Durham. Durham. And literally, I watched him, and I think he played up top with Kevin Kyle, you know. I think, so you can imagine. I mean, to be honest, that's how Sunderland rocked at the time. We always believed that, like, Quinn and Phillips, that was the way to go. So it was Kevin Kyle and Milton Nunes up top. And it was just like, wow, this is just wrong.
Right, that Sunderland have made mistakes in signing. Do you ever remember when Steve Bruce was linked to a strike when he got shot in the head?
Yeah.
Cabanas?
Yeah, was he Colombian?
I think so.
Colombian.
Aye. Did he not miss a penalty or something and got shot in the head?
No, that was the guy from the World Cup.
No, that was another Colombian.
Yeah, that was the key
in the World Cup.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
We were like linked to him, and then it was like, oh, like Colombian striker deal is now dead because he's got shot in the head.
Literally.
But he came back. I think he came back from it. I think he actually came back and then played, but they were just like, nah, mate. Nah, you've lost it. Which is a bit of a shame, really. It wasn't really his fault, you know. Anyway, whose choice is it? Dave.
Mine.
Dave, it's your choice. You've got a centre back, a left back, a midfielder, or a striker. We're getting through this like fast, by the way.
Yeah, and also going off subject very quickly at the same time. It's brilliant. That's absolutely it.
Yeah,
definitely the point.
I should have time to do a special mention too with a few players as well.
It's got to be a couple.
Yeah.
We can fill the bench.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout. Actually, that's a very good shout. So for me, going based on that story about like signing players of cultured players, I guess, someone who is light years ahead of how we played football. Another centre midfielder who I think and believe is still probably the only player who signed a contract who wasn't allowed to go to the moon. And I'll tell you what, man, that other centre midfielder was it because one of my favourite players growing up as well was Claudio Reyna. I just thought he was immense, Claudio Reyna. And again, just classy, got what we were about. But yeah, I'm going to pick Stefan Schwartz, I think. Just light years away from it, you know, just absolutely loved him.
That's actually not a bad midfield, that, when you really think about it. Considering he's got Don Love behind him, mixed with Emerson, Tom, and Boomer and Tyson in front. Like, the ammunition from that midfield will be half decent. Schwartzy's ending and Gibson.
The feeding Milton Nunes and Patrick Mboma.
I'll tell you what, I hope you pick that other centre forward, Brad, because from there, the amount of centre forwards that I'm going to give a mention to is just unbelievable.
There's a massive, obvious one missing at centre half, but Brad, it's your choice. I'm not going to. I know who I'm going for if you don't, but
yeah, I'm going to pick the centre half, and he is probably, when we were talking about the biggest cult he was in our history, well, especially over the last, you'd say, 20, 30 years. For me, player that always stands out, Nyron Nosworthy.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was going to pick. Love him.
Nugsy. I mean, he's the only bloke who could get away with when we're struggling at the wrong end of the table as well, doing a Cruyff turn on the edge of his box against Thierry Henry.
It was Ronaldo, was it not?
Ronaldo, but he just done it for fun, just done Cruyff turns against people inside his own box. I just loved the bloke. I just loved that he got the club again. It was one of them signs back that we got him from Gillingham.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think anyone had really heard of him, and he just cemented himself in Sunderland history of just being Mr. Sunderland for the time he was here. And then no one will ever forget Luton away, and he's singing down the camera his own song with his shirt off.
I absolutely love Nyron. Like, I think I've told the story in the podcast before, but the day that I interviewed him obviously was with Roker Report. And when I interviewed him, he was doing a talking at the Fans Museum, and he was there, and smooth as silk, his voice, like smooth, honestly, like a Guinness. And funnily enough, that's what he was drinking. And he was piling these Guinnesses down, and I counted about at least 11 Guinnesses that he knocked back. And I thought, there's no chance he's getting up in the morning to do that podcast. It's just not happening. He got up, no bother. Like, he smelt tremendous. He smelled absolutely unreal, right? And I know that's weird, but he did. We're like, yeah, busy night last night. He went, 4 or 5. And honestly, he no bags under his eyes, didn't look worse for wear. Now, he must have packed multiple drinks in, because by the time he was leaving to go to 7 with Kevin Phillips, that was about 11 or 12. And he'd done like a fair few Guinnesses by that point. But he was just, the things you could think about with Nyron, he was kind of horrendous at first. And remember when he put it out for a corner at Middlesbrough from the halfway line?
Yeah, too right.
Yeah.
But one thing that really sticks out for me with Nyron, right? And I'm hoping people remember, it was like 2009, 2010 season. I think Steve Bruce was in charge, because I don't think he got a look in under O'Neill, so it would have been Steve Bruce, I think. Does anyone remember we played Portsmouth at home and he just fell over for no reason and started rolling about the floor? Does no one remember that? He just, there'll be people listening that remember that. He just literally fell on the floor and started rolling about. And I asked him why he did it, and he told us, and I cannot remember. I cannot remember for the life of me, but there's so many things that Nugsy did. The Cruyff turn on bloody Ronaldo, like the confidence to have that. But the best thing about Nyron was you never quite knew what he was going to do, but actually 9 times out of 10, it worked out, didn't it?
Yeah, he didn't have a clue what he was going to do as well. And the fan didn't have a clue. His opponents didn't have a clue, but I think 9 times out of 10, I think he just winged it, and it worked. The only goal I think he ever scored was my friend's got it on. He went over to Portugal for the pre-season tour.
Sporting Lisbon. Aye.
And Nyron scored. And my mate's got a video of him, and he went absolutely mental, as if he just scored to win us promotion. He went berserk. And there was only a couple hundred Sunderland fans there, but they said he celebrated it like this. It was a packed stadium of light.
That one is a trophy. That one is a trophy, the Albufeira Cup, I think it was. So the only trophy winner, I think, and our squad, I mean, Zendon's got 1 or 2 in his locker, like, but none for Sunderland. But Nyron was just, I actually think, when we talk about definitions before, and I read the definition out, Nyron's probably the definition, isn't he, of like cult hero?
Yeah, he'd be up there, wouldn't he? I mean, again, when you've got your own song, you've got to be a cult hero, aren't you? And I tell you what, a special mention to another centre half based on having a song. And I used to serve him beer at underage while I was working at my mum and dad's pub in Pittington. Was Dickie Ord.
Oh, Dickie Ord. Who needs Cantona when you've got Dickie Ord?
Honestly, he had, what did he have? He had a car, which was something like a Volkswagen Golf. And literally, it was obviously like paid for by Volkswagen. So all over the side of the car was like Richard Ord in big red letters in this white car. And he's always parking it in the blacksmith's car park before he comes in and has a bite to eat and something to drink. But he was just a legend. I tell you, he was a suave bastard as well. His brushed back hair, what a legend. He's
also, I think, the only Sunderland player, and this is going back to when I was very, very young, so the story might be a bit sketchy, but there'll be people with a couple of years on us that remember this. Didn't we play Southend at home or something like that, and he shat himself because he had diarrhea, so he gets substituted? Like, I'm sure he shat his pants. I was on the verge of shitting his pants, and then he had to go home. I'm pretty certain his son's on Twitter somewhere. Can you ask your dad if he's ever shat himself, if you're listening? And then when we got promoted in the Premier League, he wore number 8, and it pissed me off to high heaven. Why the fuck would a defender wear number 8?
Yes.
Like, I'm just not having that. Like, but,
too old school. Yeah.
Yeah, like Khalid Boularouz wearing number 9 for Chelsea. Like this is a separate podcast. I could go on quite a rant with this. William Gallas, number 10 for Arsenal. No,
Yeah,
not having it like at all.
greatest squad number ever.
52.
Chilean international for Inter Milan.
Sanchez?
Ivan Zamorano.
Oh yes. What number was Zamorano again?
So I believe he wanted to be, originally he was number 9. Then he decided that he'd be number 18 because 1 and 8 was 9. And then the giveaway hit that shirt. So he ended up with number 99 and got the plus sign stitched in between the 2 9s.
Oh, that's right. I do remember that. But for me, it would be best squad number ever would be Nicholas Bentner, 52. Don't know why he was 52. Absolutely no relevance at all. He scored against Max.
You got a special mention for squad numbers. We had a striker who wanted to be number 3. Wanted to be. That's why as well. Another one. Why we said Zenden for the basic fact of Chelsea. It wasn't the Jan came in, done his own, just push the floor away as he comes in.
I'll tell you what, mine. Asamoah Gyan broke my heart because I loved him.
Well, I've got a thing here for you. I don't know if anyone follows him on Twitter, right? We're going to break after this, but he posted this on Twitter, and it's a message from his mate. I don't know why he's posted it, really, to be honest, but it's a message from his mate. It says, what's a WhatsApp? It says, bro, you can't believe this. I went to buy a suitcase to travel back to Ghana here in Croydon. The seller asked if I was Ghanaian, and I said yes. He asked if I know Asamoah Gyan. I laughed so hard and showed him our conversations on my WhatsApp and told him, you were my brother. Bro, the guy just dashed me £95 suitcase for free. Says he's from Sunderland and he just stoned Sunderland supporter. Bruv, I'm going to write your name on my forehead so I can get more free stuff.
I mean, so go with that and the fact that there is rumours, not confirmed by the way, but that like him and his mates sacrificed someone.
I remember that. Oh, for legal reasons, we have to completely say we do not believe that. True, but I do remember the rumor. Asamoah, if you're listening, we don't feel you sacrificed anyone. We just remember the rumor. Perfect place to leave us. That we'll leave you with a break. We'll be back after a small interlude, which I can hopefully find the stock music for when I'm editing, because we'll actually just going to be back in another minute. We're only having a break because Zoom cuts us out after 40 minutes, and I thought it'd be a funny idea to have a break. So we'll be back in, for you it might be a minute, for us it'll be about 30 seconds. See you soon. Hello, welcome back to the second part. Thanks so much if you've managed to endure our ridiculous picks so far. If you've managed to get sort of 30, 40 minutes into the pod, I do commend you. You definitely have 100% subscribed, and I know that. You'll be used to that, but you can probably hear my cat in the background crying for food. The podcast to be happening, you're just going to have to just deal with it. So far our team is as follows. We've got Jurgen Macho on goal. We've got Don Love at the right back. Emerson, Tom and Nyron at the back. That's a bomb scare of a defence. We're still waiting on our left back. We've got half decent midfield with Schwartzy, Darren Gibson and Bolo Zenden. And then we've got a horrendous forward line of Milton Nunes and Patrick and Bomber. We are going to choose a bench. But Brad, I believe it is your choice. So you've got a left back or a centre forward to go next. Where you going, mate?
It's your choice, man, Graham.
Is it my choice?
It's your choice.
Yeah.
Just testing you. I think.
I was going to take it there, to be honest.
I'm going to go with a forward, and I'm going to come away from silly season, right? Because I want him in the team, because he's not the only player, but one player that made me genuinely like stand up and go, oh, he's got the ball. When he was class, he was class. Sometimes he was a bit inconsistent. I get that. But I thought he was absolutely meant. He gives a great night at Middlesbrough. Fantastic night at Borough. Scored some stupidly good goals against Norwich, Swansea, them lot up the road. And I just think with his song and the definition that it has to be memorable and the fact that I want to go away from silly season a little bit, I'm going to go with Stefan Sessegnon, just to add a little bit of quality to Patrick Mboma and Tyson Nunes. The worry being, Mboma and Tyson are not really going to score goals. And Sess was great, but he had like lead boots. He couldn't shoot for love nor money. I think he scored like one proper belter, and that was against Fulham away. It was a screamer. But how many times did we see Sess just launch the ball about 40 yards over the ball after beating like 5 or 6 players? So the forward line's not going to score goals, but it's got that little bit of quality in with Sess. I think that's fair.
I tell you what, I've just suddenly thought of it, and there's got to be one person who is like a Football Manager geek who needs to make this team on Football Manager, or as close as you can possibly get it, and generate a season and see what happens. Because I'm intrigued.
You'd concede tons, I think. You've pretty much got Emerson Tom trying to hold that defence together, and potentially Nyron. It depends which macho you get. Do you get the macho that was normal macho? Do you get the macho that was like ridiculous for a game?
Yeah. Yeah. I reckon the midfield holds it together though, doesn't it?
Aye. I mean, the midfield's decent. Zenden and Schwartz in the middle. That's 2 very cultured midfielders alongside a very uncultured Irishman. Sorry, Darren. Probably a bit true based on your time at Sunderland. Dave, you get the final pick, a left back. Now, I think there's some decent left backs. There's an idea in my head, and it's not a daft idea. There's a good idea, but I'm not gonna inject any of my ideas in your head. I'm gonna let you go for it.
For me, and again, it's because of my age, so I can't get away from it. But he is the epitome, surely, of a cult hero. It's got to be Julio Arca, because he just gets it. Went and played for Borough, who, all right, Borough fans might think that we're big rivals. We don't think we are. Like, generally, he went to Borough and we still love him. Like, yeah, absolute hero in my book. Like, so yeah, I'm going Julio, I think.
I kind of agree. That is the epitome of a cult hero. I think up there with Nyron, Julio is like, aye. I mean, I prefer him left wing, but he did score a goal from his own half by chipping the goalkeeper Bradford from left back.
Yeah.
He was just class though, wasn't he?
I think he'd have been...
I'll be honest, when I was growing up. That was like my era, the Julio Arca time, where it was like, I just love the bloke, so I can't really disagree with that one.
Definitely, mate. I tell you what, I think what stopped him from... There's a lot of people nowadays like to say that he was overrated, and I understand what they're getting at. I don't agree with them in any way, shape or form. But I tell you what stopped him from being a very, very, very good top-end player was just a yard of pace. If he had that extra yard of pace, I think he'd have been excellent. Like, superb. I think he was excellent for us anyway. But I think he would have been superb. So, but yeah, his touch, his vision, he was a good footballer for me.
Do you remember when Kevin Kilbane used to play ahead of him?
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Killer.
See, I'm like not too far from Middlesbrough. So I've got a lot of friends that are Borough fans and they love him as well. The way they talk about him is just how we talked about him. He's they just love him. And they said the same. He's not quick, but his skill was unmatched in their team as well. So yeah, I can't disagree with the Julio Arca, but like Graham said, I remember him more as a winger than a left back. But I know then he did slot in there. I think the majority of the time he did play in there at Middlesbrough as well.
Playing centre mid as well. I remember it. Gareth Southgate put him in centre mid alongside George Boateng, I think it was at Borough. But yeah, no, I like Julio. I do like Julio a lot. I think that's not a bad shout. So with final team then, I'm gutted I didn't get one player in, so he's going to have to go on the bench because he's my favourite ever Sunderland player. And people find it weird. You'll find, like, I haven't said who it is, but people have kicked off and been like, oh, fucking shut up, man. Can I be your favourite ever Sunderland player ever? But he is, so just deal with it, right? So the team, Jurgen Macho in goal, Don Love, right back, Emerson Tom, Nyron Nosworthy, centre back, Julio left back, Schwartzy, Darren Gibson, Bolo's ending in the middle, and Mboma, Tyson Nunes, and Sess up front. So that is the most Frankenstein team that we've probably ever come across. But we didn't say it was going to be anything but cult heroes. And the definition of cult heroes was memorable for specific reasons. All of them are memorable in one way or another. I believe it's Brad's choice, but I'm gonna leave this to you, right? You can either have the manager or the first pick on the bench.
I'll go on first pick on the bench. I'll leave a manager to one of yours unless I'm left with it at the end. First pick on the bench, going to be my right back that I wanted to put in the starting team. And he's only remembered for one moment, and that is against the Scum, bobbing with his little mop head, running down the wing. Don Hutchison pointing for 30 seconds where he wants him to run until he clicked on, I better run inside. Don slipped him through and he slotted under Shea Given's legs and he just ran away not knowing what he'd just done. And that's Patrice Carteron.
That's
for
a good
that one moment only. He was brought in to cover Chris Macon?
Chris Macon. Aye, he's covering Chris Macon.
For the next 6 months so we can get a good right back. And he came in and he scored against the Scum. For me, that's just legend status on its own.
He still loves Sunderland in that as well, doesn't he? He's done like interviews in that back in France and being like, oh yeah, my 7 games at Sunderland. But I just loved his face when he scored against Newcastle. He had that sort of face like, oh fuck, what have I done? Like that kind of face where he just clicked on at that moment what he actually done. And I know it ended up being 1-1 and they duffed a goal a few minutes later. But the minute he scored that and everyone was going absolutely mental, there was just a period of time where you seen his face going, oh shit, what have I done here? Like, but Don Hutchison was pointing for like 30 seconds and the mag still didn't pick up on it.
But I just remember watching, like we were talking about the videos of the old seasons, and I could just watch that Patrice Carteron running through and I just laughed that he was running one way and Don Hutchison is pointing at him. And like you say, their fullback is being taught where he's going to run. And even Carteron the stand. And then he finally went there and their fullback still hadn't tracked him. And it was just brilliant. And the fact he megs Shea Given, it was probably, and as much as I hate Newcastle, probably one of the best goalkeepers the Premier League's had. He's slotted under his legs.
One of our best, as much as it's horrible to say, might lose a few subscribers for that, but it was class for 6 months. But anyway, went the mag for 10 years, so yeah, he can get noted. Yeah. I'm tempted to put Steve Harper in my team now just for the face he pulled when we sent them lot down. But because he was on our bench that night, he had the saddest face I've ever seen in my life. Steve Harper sending for Sunderland. It was like the sad emoji, just his face, but not yellow. But anyway, I'm blocked by him. That's becoming a theme now. I'm blocked by Joe Lasoro, Carlos Quella and Steve Harper.
Darren Bent and Piers Morgan.
That's not, to be fair, if you're going to get blocked by someone, that's not bad. Like mine's just random. Like why would Joe Lasoro block me?
It's quite amazing that Piers Morgan has blocked me again because I lost my last Twitter. So I've only had my new one about 2 months and he's blocked me again. So he must have seen my name pop up with that same photo. I went, fuck that.
Hates you more than he hates Meghan Markle. I'm going to go next bench option. And I thought I was going to make silly choices and I went and made serious choices the last 2. But I did love him. And he bought us a coffee in Magdeburg, I think it was. Jan Kirchhoff, my favourite ever Sunderland player. I just loved him. For me, he was just one of those players that like oozed class that would have never ever been at Sunderland if it wasn't for the simple fact that he was literally made of like what's it? I mean, he was. Oh, he was. I mean, obviously, I think when I spoke to him, he wasn't a fan of David Moyes and he really liked Sam Allardyce, which to be fair kind of goes with the pattern of a lot of Sunderland fans. But he went to Bolton and then he went like a 3rd division German club and it was just like, oh, he's so talented. Like, and I just loved him for like 6 months. He was just the best midfielder I've ever seen at Sunderland. And I know that's controversial, right? I know people are going to go, oh, fuck off. But I just thought he was absolutely class, aside from his debut, which was absolutely horrendous. And technically adds into his cult hero status. But we've got 3 more spaces left on the bench, Dave. So you're next.
Oh, my God. It's absolute carnage, this, because there's names I'm going to have to mention before we finish. So, like, the more we talk about things, the more that just pop up in my head. So going off great or shite debuts, I've got one for later if nobody mentions them. But I think we need a little bit of balance on the bench. So I think we need another centre forward who's like going to pull us out the shite when we need a goal. And I tell you what, I don't know if it'll ring any bells for anyone. Brad might be a bit too young again, but there was a player that we signed. In fact, I think it was a double signing at the same time, and it was. I think we paid 9 million. Yeah, in fact, no, I'm lying. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent because they were both shite. So my cult hero centre forward to get us out of shit when we need a goal is Lillian Lesland, because the bloke used to try and score an overhead kick every fucking week, and the bastard couldn't score in general. Like, he couldn't score in general. And he used to try overhead kicks from the fucking halfway line. And he used to infuriate the life out of me. And that was when I had my season ticket. And that was just like the decline. I'm like, why are we trying to replace the likes of Quinn with Lillian Lesland? And I think at the time, did we sign him from Bordeaux possibly?
Bordeaux.
And I think Bordeaux were probably like European football team by then, you know. So he came with a bit of and he was shit. He was absolutely woeful. His hair was nice. I'll give him his due. His hair was nice.
Neville
Had a
Ramsey.
lovely look earring. That's all I remember from it. A lovely diamond earring with a nice haircut. But fuck me, he was bad.
Yeah, but just because he was so bad, I look back on him now and I'm like, yeah, you tried hard. I liked you. You know?
He was shite. He was horrendous. Like, I mean, that bench is stinking apart from Kirchhoff. It kind of goes with the territory of the team, I guess. It's proper Frankenstein. It's like you've picked up like some really good like muscly arms, but then you've like picked up like a malnutritioned leg. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like that's the Frankenstein Sunderland team. But Brad, it's your choice. We've got two more choices for the bench, so I get the last choice on the bench. You get the second last choice, and then we'll all come together for choice of manager, I think.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick, and it might sound like I'm licking his ass, right? Because he's like, I talk to him a lot, and he would have been in my starting lineup. But again, the era I was in growing up, watching him play, and he won our player of the year as well. I've got to put Danny Collins in there somewhere.
Aye, DC.
There's another lad who just gets the area. I mean, he's not from around here. He came up and played for us. He's left, and then he's came back here, and he's still involved with the club. He gets the club. But what a footballer he was as well.
But you're right in what he says. He was a good player for us. He totally got it. He came back from, I mean, pretty poor when we first got him. That mistake against Plymouth was fucking shite. Like, heads it to Barry Hales, who bangs it in the bottom corner, getting beat home off Plymouth. Crap. But he came back. He made a new position. He's obviously on the commentary team. He lives in the area. He gets it. He loves Sunderland. Like, you can see that a mile off. So I think I would probably pick DC over Julio at left back. Obviously, we can't because the choice has been made. And that's harsh on Julio. But
that was my thinking. When he said Julio, I was like, yeah, I can't disagree because Julio's brilliant. But when I was on centre half, there was a toss up between Naiwan and Danny, but obviously we said Naiwan is probably the ultimate cult hero, and that's what we're looking at. But Danny's got to go in there somewhere for the basic fact. When he's come back as well, he gets credit to him. He makes his own time to get involved with all fan groups.
Mm-hmm.
He makes time to speak to anyone, and I just think the lad was his class as well.
I think we could do with a winger, Graham, if I'm honest.
I've got a winger. I can't say. You know what? We were talking about Crabbers earlier, and his commentary always comes back for that reason.
Oh, Carlos is a good shout. Right, I'll give you two, right? And I'll let you decide who gets on the bench. So Carlos is going to be the other one, right? Because Carlos was class. And like just the goals he scored in that 6-month period was mint. Another player that loves the area. I'm also tempted by Andy Reid.
Andy Reid, bloody hell, great shout.
I mean, Andy Reid's there's a few here. Oh, am I going to go Carlos, Andy Reid?
He came on and he put that crossfield pass to Darryl Murphy in perfect.
Oh, has any Roker Park cult heroes that I've missed though?
I tell you what, mind. If we're talking about Roker Park cult heroes, you can't not talk about Martin Smith, can you?
Oh, Smithy.
How can you miss out? If you're talking about Roker Park and our early years, Graham, you can't miss him out.
And Smithy's more versatile. You see, I've looked at Craig Russell, but he's got the max again, so he's not getting in the team. He's not getting anywhere near. Don Goodman, it's a great shout.
Oh,
Big bad Don.
That's starting all-time 11 now, aren't we?
And then
now I'm just chucking everyone in, and at the end, it's like, oh, right, this guy and that guy. I think, and this is nostalgic reasons, and I'm sorry, Carlos, because you were very, very close. But I think I'm going to have to go Smithy, because son of Pele, Sunderland through and through, played at St James's Park and got booed. I was there by the Mags, got booed at playing for England under 21s, then scored against them, and they were singing Macklin wants to score when he played for Sheffield United, and he gave them the 2-1 when we just beat them. And if we're talking from a team perspective, he could play on the right wing, but he could also play up front, so you've got that little bit of versatility. You know what, Graham, final answer, I'm going Martin Smith.
Yeah, there isn't a person, especially at our age, who could argue with Martin Smith being in that squad. Not at all.
How has our bench ended up better than our starting 11?
Our 5-a-side, big starting 11.
Like, you would be making the 5 changes, wouldn't you? You'd be begging the FA. How they've all got COVID, man. Like the long COVID. You've got. So we've got Macho, Donaldov, Emerson, Tom, Nyron, Julio, Schwartzy, Darren Gibson, Bolo Zenden, Patrick and Bomber, Tyson and Cess. Then your bench is Carter on Kirchhoff, Lasland, Danny Collins and Martin Smith. That bench is better. We've got a better bench.
I don't remember much of Martin Smith. The one thing I do remember, did he score from near the halfway line against Tranmere at home at the Stage of My Light?
Huddersfield.
Yeah. Huddersfield at the Stage of My Light, and that's the only real memory I've got, like, in person. But like I say, I've watched the review things and stuff like that, and yeah, he was a good player. Like,
Mickey Bridges would have been a shout as well. Mickey Bridges, cool as Bridges.
Yeah, but also
one of the defenders.
But also one of the Geordies. That's it. I'll tell you what, some special mentions talking about cult heroes, centre arse. I think we all thought we'd get like an absolute superstar after his debut against Arsenal, I believe. Stanislav Varga.
Big Stan. Back again, didn't he?
Oh, mate. Stanislav Varga. And then people who we hear, Lorik Sana.
He was on my list.
Only there. Yeah, I'm with you, Brad. He was only there for a year, but everyone fell in love with him.
I've went and chose Darren Gibson over Lee Catmull. What the fuck am I doing? Like,
I also had Kieran Richardson written down as well.
Oh,
yeah, I tell you what.
See, if we'd gone serious rather than stupid, we could have had a whole different podcast.
Well, do another pod of all-time 11s.
Do you know what the funny thing is, though? We're sitting discussing this now, and everyone listening to the pod that's made it this far has been saying this the whole way through.
Yeah, massively.
So if you've arrived at this point with us, we arrived at your viewpoint quite late. We've got one more to go. We've got manager, right? Now, I think in my lifetime, there's 4 managers that I've, maybe 5 that I've really liked. Obviously, Reedy's the big one. Big Sam is a massive one. Gustavo, big one. Big Mick, love Big Mick.
Mick Mac.
And then probably
Keane.
That's who I was thinking of course, Roy Keane. And off the top of my head, they're the ones that I like the most, right? So I'm going to pick a manager out of that, and I'm going to make my point for it, right? And we've all got to agree who's got the best point here. That's how this is going, right? So I'm going Mick McCarthy, right? The reason I'm going Mick McCarthy is very, very, very simple. He got a team with the likes of Jeff Whitley, Sean Thornton, a very injury-prone and knackered Michael Bridges, Neil Collins, bad Danny Collins, Liam Lawrence, and a lot of like unknown players and relatively average ones promoted out of the championship. Yes, we know what happened this season after that, but I reckon if anyone's going to get Macho, Donlove, Tom, Darren Gibson and Boma Tyson playing with that little bit of quality in there, I think it would be I think it would be Mick Mac, but that's my vote. But I'll go with Dave next to your vote.
So, just because it's a massive case of, and we can't attest to it, but I'm gonna give my old man a shout out because of how he was. I tell you what, to get a group of underdogs, because that's what our team is. We are underdogs. There's no looking at that 11. Yeah, I don't even think we beat the worst Premier League side ever, which is Derby. But I'm going to say Bob Stokoe. That is my shout. I've got nothing to go off because obviously I didn't see any of the 73 hours of 13 minus 13 I was. But to go up against a team of absolute superstars in what was Leeds United and put out a performance with, there were some good players in there. But yeah, my vote's going to be for Bob Stokoe. So,
are we overlooking Mick Buxton here?
Or Terry Butcher, for that matter?
Definitely not overlooking Terry Butcher. I wouldn't tell him that with his face, but
Howard Wilkinson and Steve Cotterill, dream team. Makes me angry, mate, as well. Trust me.
Brad, where are you going?
Hey, I was sticking on with cult hero status, and then it's not just because he was like a brilliant manager for us in the time he was here. I think there's a photo of them in the training ground where they're all just wearing sunglasses, and I think modern day Roy Keane would look back at that and be very angry with himself. What is he doing? And again, he took a team. If we're going off what he'd done, he took a team that were bottom of the championship, bought nearly fucking every player in England that was available, and got us promoted in the same season. And I just love Roy Keane. I just think even though he'd been at Man United, I think he got the club. He understood the fans, and the fans loved him as well. And it will always leave a sour taste for me of how he left, because I would have always thought another couple of years what would have happened, because I think we sort of didn't ever kick on after he left. But Roy Keane for me.
The one, if we're talking about cult heroes in terms of managers and sticking by the starting 11 that we've got, and is genuinely an absolute legend at the club, Niall Quinn, the manager. Fucking clue. So, yeah.
I think it's hard, right? Because I said Mick Mac and I have my valid reasons, and I'm echoing everything Brad's just said 100%. But I cannot, as a Sunderland fan, even though I wasn't alive, I cannot go against Bob Stokoe. There's a fucking statue outside. Imagine if I went, no, Mick McCarthy. We cannot go against Bob Stokoe for that management, can we? The ultimate hero, cult hero, memorable for all the right reasons.
Just that stance. What does it mean to us all? What does it mean to us all? But I tell you what, though, so there seems like we've got a few minutes left. Who is Bob Stokoe's number 2 out of Mick Mac and Roy Keane?
I'll let you decide that one, Dave, because we went with yours as the gaffer.
I know where I'm going with it, and I've got a reason behind it. Mick Mac, as far as I'm aware, has never been an assistant. Roy Keane has.
Shout. Great shout.
Sorry, Mick. Sorry, fella.
We couldn't have them both because they'd kill each other, let's be honest.
To be fair, we'll put Patrick and Bowman and Tyson up front, so if we're talking about bad parents, I think wouldn't be the worst in the team, would it? But I hope everyone's enjoyed sort of coming with us. We've had a laugh with it, and that's kind of all it's intended to be. I think we've had fun with it. We're obviously fully aware that some of the choices are absolutely bizarre and mental. But we want to do something a little different, something different to maybe a quiz like we did last year, or something different to a review of the year or something like that, and hopefully it's been a good idea that you've enjoyed and brought back some good memories and hopefully some laughs. And if it hasn't, no harm. The preview show is going to be back next week. You can tune into that. But thanks for joining us. We've been What the Falk. Obviously, Dave's been Dave, Brad's been Brad, and I've been myself, the host, as always. Graham, thank you very much.